What's going on, guys? This is Jay and Joku, Sneaker Principal. And in this episode of the Sneaker Principal podcast, I want to talk to you about learning to keep your mouth shut. I know this is a pretty harsh way to start a podcast episode. However, one of the things that I've learned, actually, let me rewind. I received a call from someone I really admire, someone I've mentored, someone I have had the privilege of seeing them grow up professionally within this space of education. And they reached out because of issues that they're having with leadership. And what was shared with me is not brand new. I've had this brought to me many times over the years, where you have someone who works at a school or even within a company, or regardless of what the industry is, and they're dealing with a difficult, or at least what is being described as a difficult leader, a difficult work environment, and they tell me or share with me all the issues that they're having, all the things that are happening in their workspace, and the trauma, and in most cases drama, that they're experiencing there. As they're talking, they're telling me all the things that's happened, and I hear a lot of they and them and they and them and they and them. And when I ask questions about what they did, they're able to identify things that they did that antagonizes the situation. Things that they did that, in which in that time they didn't realize that their actions were creating or were planting the seeds of what they're experiencing right now. And someone might say, well, the person who's causing the problems, the leader who's not emotionally intelligent, or whatever the case may be, it's their fault. And my thing is, we're all human beings, right? Sometimes you will rub people the wrong way. And sometimes, or even often, people will take how you make them feel to heart, and many times will either consciously or subconsciously treat you accordingly. And as time progresses, you find yourself fighting and arguing and pushing and clawing at the situation, when in all reality, what you should have done is just shut up. And ask yourself, why is this happening? What did I do? How do I get back to zero? Or better yet, how do I fix this? How do I engage in the conversation rather than fighting back? Or because a lot of times when you're fighting back, you're not fighting back because you're fighting for what's right. You're fighting back because you want to be right. And it doesn't work. As a leader, one of the most annoying things is being in a position where I'm engaging in battles that don't move anything forward, that don't yield what is important for my students. And not to say that every principal is like me, every leader is like me, and I'm not perfect by any means. Trust me, anyone who's worked with me knows I get into my spaces, I get into my bag. But one thing that I'm quick to do once I calm myself down, which is usually pretty quick, I will apologize for being wrong. I would apologize for even when I'm not wrong, just to make sure I bring the temperature down so we can refocus ourselves around the work, which is supporting children, at least in my industry. It might be different for you if you're listening to this from a different industry. But for those of you who complain and say, oh, it's leadership, question is, you have to ask yourself, what are you doing yourself as a leader? Because leadership is not just a stagnant position. It's bi-directional. Whether you're subordinate or you're the one who's in charge, you're still leading. The way you move, the what you say, how you impact other people, you're leading them. So it's very important then when things are not going the way you want them to go, that you stop talking and you ask yourself, what is going on here? What do I need to do to bring things back to center, or even bring things to center? I don't know if this makes sense to anyone who's listened to this, but if you're in a position where you're in conflict with your leadership, you have to question yourself first. Find clarity in yourself first. Ask yourself, why am I so hurt or so whatever about the situation, and what is it about this I am not willing to let go of? Because if you address yourself first, you come to clarity and say, wait a minute, I'm doing the most. Or maybe you're not doing enough, but minimum, at least you know if you're doing the most, so you can address the problem and come to a solution versus being in conflict. Because, especially as an educator, if you're always fighting and arguing with your leadership, guess what you're not doing? You're not being effective as a leader in your classroom. You're not being effective as a teacher, in your classroom. And you're not being effective as a human being whenever you're in the building because you're always caught up in the battle. And not to say there aren't some people out there who will cause problems or try to put you into that space. But when when you realize that's the case, then your job is to walk away. And sometimes we fight unnecessary battles, and yeah, that's how I feel about that. And hopefully it makes sense to somebody out there. But for me, I choose to not engage unless I, without a doubt, have to engage. But for me to engage, it's because things have gone to a point where there's no other option because I've done everything in my power to bring everyone back to center. And usually by engagement means that I have to remove myself from that space. All right, y'all. Uche Njoku, Sneaker Principal. Thank you for your time, and hopefully this helps someone out there. Be well.